I want to begin this album by telling you why I'm going into stealth mode. I decided to go into stealth mode when I got into an argument with who I feel is the other half of my soul. So I took the time out to do a couple of things. One was read a book called The Conscious Parent by Stefani Tasalba. You can purchase that on Amazon, or you can get that on PDF Drive. And another book which is very current in my life, it's called Domination and Submission, the BDSM Relationship Handbook by Michael Mackay. And I bet you're probably wondering, now, Devin, why would you want to get yourself involved in BDSM where, people like to do a bunch of insane sexual acts to each other and do very nasty and sodomizing things to one another? Well, the truth of the matter is, it's me. When it comes to sex, it's a part of who I am. You know what I'm saying? As a child, I always was a daredevil. You know what I'm saying? But getting to the core of why I'm into that, I used to argue with women a lot in my teenage years and going into my early to mid 20s. You know what I mean? I didn't listening. I was very controlling, very demanding. I always had to have things my way. What else about me that was toxic? Yeah, that's basically it. I like things done a certain way, and if I couldn't have my way with a woman, I would get mad. You know what I mean? Or really angry. And I started to realize that was toxic. So I took a 3-4 year journey to go find myself sexually. But before I could do that, I had to question, where were these toxic behaviors coming from? Little did I know, not realizing that some of these behaviors came from both my first stepfather and then my mom. And then I thought about it. I said, I gotta change this, because if I don't, people are not gonna want to be around me. So the more I got into metaphysics, alchemy, esoteric knowledge, and then of course understanding both sexual education and sexual spirituality, and also realizing why my relationships were failing, I had to realize I don't like the way I'm behaving. I think something is wrong with me, and I have to change it. And so, when I joined the Black BDSM movement back in 2016, my life totally changed. And it's so funny when my when my mom found out uh, I was into BDSM. It was a shocker, you know what I mean? Because I had a nurse who was very open, who was very understanding, and so um, when I asked my mom if I could go to my first BDSM conference, I was actually nervous in asking her, but she started understanding. Well, Devin, you're a you're a grown man, and you need to be happy. You know what I'm saying? Especially um, being somebody in a wheelchair, being physically handicapped. Um, you know, thing subjects such as sex, uh, psychologically, emotionally, and physically can be very interesting, especially if you're a black guy like me, and you're heavily erotic. Oh man. And I think my memory of BDSM stood from my teenage years, to be exact. I remember being 16, um, being at home, watching HBO, uh, real sex. You know what I'm saying? And at this time, I was a Christian. You know what I mean? I hadn't been conscious yet. I was a Christian, and even back then, you know, my my mom, my mom and pops listening to R&B music. Um, you know, our our music, especially R&B songs, definitely casted a spell on me. Like every time I would hear an R&B song, um, I would just get horny and wanna fuck. You know what I'm saying? just, just being real about it. um, yeah. So I'm at home, uh, at the age of 16, watching HBO, Real Sex, and they had a segment on there where there was a bunch of people at this brothel, and they were participating in BDSM, and I remember how excited I was. You know what I mean? like 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 deep in my heart and in my religious mind, I'm like, this shit is sinful. It's creepy. I can't watch this. But it's like, you couldn't help but to change the channel. You couldn't help but to turn back to the channel and just watch it. Excuse me, sorry. Um, Moving my little camera around here. My apologies. Yeah, but you know, I was like, this is sin. This is wicked. This is sinful. I can't watch this. But I ended up changing the channel back because it was nothing else to watch. So I'm just like, I might as well just watch this. And the more I started uh, getting into it and just like listening to the conversations, like finding out what those people's sexual desires and interests were, it really intrigued me, and it really didn't dawn on me that I was into it until I turned the age of 26. I got into a real bad relationship with a woman. She and I were star seeds, and this was actually after I met my twin soul. That I was in a relationship with another woman that really didn't last long. Um, and I felt in some ways, you know, she was exactly like my mom. Uh, and I and I realized that this is the type of person that I really didn't want to be with, But I but I but I learned a very key I learned a very key thing. I learned a very key thing from that relationship. And that was, if you really want a dominant female, alpha female, to take care of you, make sure you're financially straight and secure, you better listen. And it wasn't until I started practicing more of my ancient Egyptian. The actual name for Egypt is Kemet. The word the word the origin of the word Egypt comes from Greece. It comes from Greco-Roman Greece. Okay, so I started practicing more of my ancient Kemetic faith and spirituality, and one of the things that intrigued me was I found out that my ancient Kemetic ancestors were very kinky, very erotic, very sexual, but they did this as a means to be more spiritual. I mean, it was a lot that I had learned that I won't say on record. I guess you'll have to find that out for yourself. Anyway, there's another reason why I made this tape. I made this mixtape because I'm actually going into stealth mode. See, I'm at a point in my life where the next love relationship I have, I know it'll be permanent. Because not only do I want a alpha female like alpha female like my mom, who's also dominant, I really don't want to tell anyone who I'm with. That is, unless my partner says it's okay. I had a tendency to be very impulsive as a child, and even into my teenage years, and when I got to my 20s, and now into my adulthood in my 30s, I'm learning to control my impulses a little more. you know, being a straight submissive bottom, and then a part-time a part-time BDS sissy boy. And for those of you that don't know what BDS is, let me break down the full letters and the acronym for it. I'm a part of a sexually liberated culture known as BDSM, which stands for bondage, dominance, discipline, sodomy and submission, and masochism. Now, masochists, they're into chains, needles, pins. They get pleasure out of sticking each other. Now, I can now me my level of pain is very minimal. I can handle some thumbtacks. You know what I mean? But I'm not into extreme torture sex. I can't handle that. I'm more on the soft side of it, the BDS, the bondage, the the dominance, the discipline, the sodomy and submission. I like to dress up. I like role play. I like wearing face paint. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of my niche, my cup of tea. Me being a black, um, straight androgynous guy. A lot of people have accused me of being gay, which is totally not true. I mean, there was a period when I was into transgender women. Yes, that's true. But when I observed for myself that transgender women isn't something I need to be with, I realized it's not for me. And so I took 10 steps back out of that culture, went 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 back to heterosexuality, only to find myself going into the east of heterosexuality, Eastern heterosexuality, which is the the BDSM culture. All right, or to simply put, the the culture where the woman is the head of the household and the 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 man is simply the submissive. He's the tail. Now for me, it's a little bit different because as as both a submissive and a man, I realized that just because you are a part of BDSM doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be weak. Okay? No no real dominant woman likes a weak man. There's a difference between being submissive and being weak. And weak is a very toxic emotion. You know what I mean? You depend on the woman to do everything. That's a very big burden to put on a black woman. You know what I'm saying? So, without further ado, I give to you my stealth tape. Listen close as I reveal a deep, dark secret of mine.